that. That and that. Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Shin Gear. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
That's me. Hand me that water over there. I didn't get a drink break like you did.
Should have made you a hot tea.
Should have.
Got a pedicure. With us today from Charlotte, North Carolina, Miss Tara Akins. Tara, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you guys, Jeff and Andy, for having me.
We're excited to
good.
have you.
We want big controversy now, or not controversy. Things are starting to happen in Texas and a lot of places we're starting to see raccoon hunting contest, and it's coons, possums, and other fur-bearing animals. And Tara, I can tell by looking at your wall over there that you like raccoons.
Just a little bit. I was showing Andy my earrings earlier, so
Raccoons there too.
Got to represent.
Okay, so so are you with an organization or just a concerned citizen?
I'm actually with New Leaf Wildlife here in Charlotte, and I started out in another state rehabbing raccoons, but in North Carolina, we have to do an apprenticeship for 3 years before we can even work with RVS species. So I'm under a 3-year commitment right now to apprentice here so I can get my full license and be able to be a full-fledged raccoon rehabber.
What is RVS?
Rabies vector species. So raccoons, coyotes, fox,
Skunks.
The primary carriers of rabies. And I've had my rabies vaccination, so the pre-vax, so that when I am ready to start working with them here, I'll be ready to to go.
What if an animal does have rabies? They're exterminated, correct? Like there's no coming back from that for the fur-bearing animal?
No, if they definitely have rabies and it's confirmed. I mean, it's always better to be safe. And if we have a finder that even thinks there might be a possibility of rabies, our first instructions are keep you and your family safe, stay away from it, let the authorities, animal control, do what they do. But, a lot of times it may not be rabies. It may be distemper. It may be they fell and hit their head and have a seizure. They could be hit by a car. Even parasites can cause, symptoms that look like rabies, but that isn't rabies. But we would always rather people be safe, of course. Like our primary concern is the safety of citizens.
Is distemper, can they overcome that, or is it a fatal disease?
It's rare. I mean, by the time symptoms exhibit, they are pretty much at the end stage, right. And it's so contagious. And we also wouldn't want to spread that to our animals, the healthy animals we have in rehab. So
how is it spread? Is it spread like what's the parvo for dogs, or how is it spread?
Well, distemper is spread from mucus, so airborne, and parvo is mainly spread through fecal matter. So
right. I didn't.
And everyone worries about raccoon roundworm, brain-eating roundworm, but I mean, you basically have to be playing in the poop and then biting your fingernails. I mean, we have hundreds, thousands of rehabbers that work with raccoons every day, and they don't get rabies and worms, and, you just take precautions. And so.
How bad was the rabies shot, or was it quick and easy?
It was so easy. It's a series of 3 shots, and they work you up to the dosage. So the first one, it's just in your shoulder, and it's super easy.
Now the treatment for rabies, that's a different story, right? That's a series of shots, and they're right around the belly button, aren't they?
No, they don't have to give them in the abdomen anymore. But the thing, they're super expensive though. Is the only thing. The cost is pretty prohibitive. I mean, it could run $10,000 to $25,000 to get the series.
Something that cost them $3 to make.
Post.
Probably.
Exactly.
More government bullcrap. It used to be 26 days in a row of getting a shot in your belly button.
Right.
Is what it used to be.
I bet you were tender by the end of that. By about day 13. Couldn't handle another shot.
Yep. No, thank you.
Belly.
Okay, Tara, I want to get into the meat of this deal. Right now, a lot of people think, or the opinion with some is that we are having a huge reduction of our turkey numbers, and a lot of it has been blamed on the raccoon and other fur-bearing animals. Now, so what they've done is I don't know much about raccoons, and I'm going to let you educate us on this, but how many pups, what do you call baby coons? They pups?
Kits.
Kits.
Yeah.
How many
Raccoon kits.
how many do they have in a year?
I wouldn't know in a year. They have a litter of, they can have like 1 or 3 or 4 at a time, and a couple of times a year. So maybe 6.
Okay, well, the raccoon population is blowing up, or it seems. So what's happened is they do varmint contests in Texas and Oklahoma, and most all states do, where they shoot the coyotes. And they shoot a coyote, they call it in, and now raccoons is something they're doing, and the deprivation, because they say it's going to help take care of the nesting animals. Now,
Turkeys, quail.
That's basically
it.
What's your suggestion for what people should do to help cull these raccoon numbers?
So I'm thinking that by exterminating large numbers of them, nature, just being nature, comes in, and then they need to produce more kits the following year to make up the deficit. So anytime you take one grown raccoon out of any situation, there's going to be maybe 10 more that come in to take the place of that one. So I don't think that mass extermination is the answer to that. There are ways to deter raccoons from these areas, a way to protect them. We were talking behind the scenes about, getting a cattle dog, or just other forms of protection, and protecting the grains from, just not having food out anywhere that they could get access to, and just stronger wire when they're building poultry enclosures, or, just taking precautions on that end and protecting themselves, but being able to coexist, because anytime you take anything out of nature, it leaves a vacuum, and nature has to fill that vacuum back up.
But what about the bird's nest in the wild, like turkeys and quail?
Yeah, because they're not gonna build. The argument is, so Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, there's a lot of like southern states where the turkey numbers have plummeted, and nobody can really explain why. And one of the suggestions is that raccoons, possums, skunks, a lot of these ground critters are also nest raiders. So for the wild bird, they're thinking that if they can eliminate some of these nest raiders, that you will see an increase in quail and turkey populations. So there wouldn't be necessarily any wires for nest incubation. Does that make sense?
Okay, absolutely. But I'm just wondering, I'm curious, is it proven to be the nest raiders, or have they been hunted to extinction? So until I see paperwork, like I really want to see studies before I would assume one way or the other. And I just think that they've made a hypothesis, and people that want to exterminate the nest raiders have taken that as a green flag to just go hog wild and kill them by any means necessary.
Right.
So,
overhunting is it could definitely be leading to some of this. I know in our area, the limit is 4 turkeys. So, I mean, the last couple of years, it's impossible to harvest 4 turkeys. Like, you just can't do it because they're not here. I have never filled my tag limit on turkeys just because it's actually pretty hard to do to shoot 4 in our area. But yeah, overhunting should be something that is a concern. And I think a lot of states are looking at a lower bag limit for turkeys. But to test the hypothesis, I mean, the only way to do that is to exterminate raccoons and see if there is a rebound. Now, the problem with raccoons is they've got a bad rap of being these little pesky animals that will dump your garbage over. So nobody's really an advocate for them, right?
Right.
Like nobody cares if a raccoon lives or dies because, you know, it's just this thing that's you leave your garbage out, you're going to have your garbage all over your front porch.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely been proven that raccoons, there's plenty of videos that raccoons, possums, skunks will go into these nests when the hens are away and then basically rob their entire clutch for that spring. And then the hen has to get rebred, and then it's a whole big thing. But yes, there are videos of it. To what extent, I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking, because is it to the extent that is what is solely responsible for the huge decline in turkey numbers? So, I mean, it could be a combination of those. And I mean, they're definitely mischief makers, and they're just trying to find food
Sure.
and feed their families like everybody else is. So I think the thing is that if people could have a personal experience with a raccoon, because I have so many rehabbers nationwide that said once they got into rehabbing and their grandfathers got to experience these animals on a different level, that they have actually broke down weeping, that they killed so many of them senselessly when they see like the magic of what these animals are, when they experience them in a different capacity.
I don't think people are wanting them as pets, because they're not a pet. It's a wild animal. I mean,
They don't want them as pets, but I'm just saying there's such a misconception about them. Like, I can see wanting to protect your home, but there's ways to do it that aren't as merciless as it's being done now. Like, as rehabbers, we have to go through all this training. I have to go through 3 years of apprenticing. One raccoon costs $900 for a season to rehab it for a baby raccoon. And so we're devoted to saving what we can. And yet, if someone wants to go out and beat a raccoon to death with a baseball bat, that's fine.
well, I don't think they're doing that.
No,
they're wanting to.
No, they are. There's videos, all kinds of videos where they get them in a trap and then they beat them with a baseball bat.
I haven't.
And there's teenagers in Missouri that, for fun, beat a raccoon to death on video, and they don't get any consequences.
Well,
and yet, if we try to help them as rehabbers, there are people that try to help them that aren't rehabbers, and they get put in jail and they get a $5,000 fine. But yet it's okay to go and do these horrible, malicious things to them. So
we don't condone any of that. We're hunters.
No,
we're not. I don't. If I saw somebody doing it, I'd pop them upside the head with a bat. That's not right.
That's a bad look for everybody.
Yeah, we're not for that.
Absolutely.
These guys.
And I don't any animal that I hunt, I would not want for it to meet its end in that manner.
No, that's
like,
ridiculous.
There is a quick and humane way of doing everything.
These are the same kids that also light cats on fire. I mean,
Yes,
they're just evil.
There's bad.
So
they are not representative of the hunting population as a whole.
We're talking about people that are hunting. I mean, let's face it. A raccoon is a varmint. A raccoon has Daniel Boone wore a hat. I mean, it's a fur-bearing animal. People have sold their furs forever. There's people that trap them. There's people that shoot them. It's part of the life cycle that we go through. But they also are out of control in some areas. What is your solution for these people that have these in the wild, not around your house, in the wild, to rid the population of raccoons? What's the answer to you? What is your answer?
I would need to see studies done of, is the population out of control? Because I keep hearing that tossed around, but I haven't seen studies or paperwork that say that is the case, that they're overpopulated.
What's your answer if it was overpopulated? Let's say I come to you and I say, listen, here's the facts. Our raccoon population's at 15% long term, and they are killing our quail. They're robbing the quail eggs, the nest. They're doing that to the turkeys. What would you say? How would you say that we need to exterminate them or to bring their numbers down?
I would say to find a way to protect the nest to get the population back up. Maybe something around the perimeter.
You can't do it. It's a wild animal.
I mean, I don't have any recommendations. We were kind of brainstorming in a forum, and I just happened to say, well, they have birth control for cats. Like maybe they could have birth control for raccoons.
I don't think
honestly,
they're not sleeping with the turkeys. They're eating them. We got to figure out how to.
Well, no, what she's saying
No,
is
I
that there was a
understand.
way that we could limit the population of raccoons, but then that's
what we're doing.
To cascade. Okay, I've got a study out of Iowa. There has been a 268% increase in raccoons over the last 16 years. And a 23% increase in the last year alone. That's in Iowa. And that was written in December 2nd, 2022. So just a couple months ago, and I got a fly on me. So, I mean, a 268% increase in the last 16 years and, 25%, just a hair under in the last year alone. Now, that is because of a lot of different things. That is because of urbanization. There is more trash around these urban areas, and so you're seeing an increase in raccoons, and then the excess goes out into the countryside, and they have to forage there. So Toronto's writing articles about the exploding raccoon population. There's many, many cities that have. Germany is talking about a raccoon explosion. There's a lot of news articles that the population is growing out of whack almost.
It's kind of like the wolf in Yellowstone. They introduced the wolf. Now they didn't introduce the coon. They've been there, but they're out of control, and so they're wiping out the elk and the deer herds. So the only way you're going to do it is to hunt and kill the wolves. So if coons are raising at what was it, 238%
in 16 years, 268%.
There has to be a way to eradicate raccoons in some way. And I don't know the answer for the person that's against them shooting these coons. All I'm asking for a solution on y'all's end, other than doing these sports where they're doing tournaments to shoot them.
I just think, I mean, if that is the case, there just has to be a more merciful way to go about doing it than these people going online and saying, hit them with a car, do whatever you have to do.
I don't see that. This is
beat them with a baseball bat and do it responsibly. If that is the case, if it is a situation where it truly is overpopulated, I mean, we keep building, and all of the wildlife has no place to go.
Well, the coons have exploded with the urbanization. They got more food. They got more shelter. I mean, they eat dog food, cat food in the backyards. I mean, they're pretty
adaptive,
very adaptive. They're a very adaptive animal, and they've adapted to urbanization. But I'm not talking about people running over a coon on a car on purpose. That's a good way to get killed in a car wreck yourself. I'm talking about these contests they're having to take them out of the wilds. What is the solution from y'all's end other than these guys? And I don't know of anything more merciful, and it sounds absolutely horrible, than if you shoot an animal, it doesn't suffer. It's a lot better than what are the other ways of doing it. I mean,
definitely a baseball bat.
Yeah, it's better than poisoning them. It's instant.
It definitely is. The issue for us is that they're doing it during baby season. So they're killing a mom, and then there's 4 kits left behind that are starving to death, that are being eaten alive by maggots. And we get them, and we have to clean the maggots out of them and, try to bring them back from the brink of death. And so it is a hard balance, because we're also seeing an increase, and we get to a point where we can't help anymore because we know there are, so many that need help. It's a good question. How do we balance our love and wanting to help keep them from suffering, and also solve this issue for you guys of obviously wanting to have turkey to hunt and not declining those numbers? So I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what the answer is to that.
So maybe if they did these contests a couple months earlier, instead of doing it, because it does say here the young are born in April or May after a 63-day gestation period, females produce 1 litter per year, average of 4 cubs per litter. So if they maybe did these contests in late January when there are no young pups on the ground, maybe that would be a possible solution, because now you're not ruining the lives of 4 raccoons or 5 raccoons, mother and 4 pups, let's say. You're just eliminating one. I would be interested to know too, because there's been a lot of studies that coyotes are very good at population control. If the numbers of coyotes grow, the number of litters, the number of cubs in that or pups in that litter go down, because they can regulate their population to always stay kind of even. If there are coyotes that are not doing well, they'll come into heat more often and they'll generate more pups. I would be interested to know data that raccoons also do the same thing, because that would be interesting. Because like you said, if we take one raccoon out, then it's just going to replace itself with 2 more raccoons. Has that been something that has been
probably 10 more raccoons?
Have we seen data that supports that?
Absolutely.
So they also regulate their population.
Yes. It's like I was saying before, like nature abhors the vacuum. So if we start taking them out, and that could also be what the population explosion is from, because the more we're trapping and taking to other areas, and the more we're messing with environments, then, the more they're having to reproduce or encroach in on other raccoons' territories. And the population, it's just nature. Nature knows what to do to propagate itself. So the more that we're messing with it, then the worse it's getting.
I read some comments on this page, and one of them I want to share says that one of the anti-hunters, and you said you're not an anti-hunter, you believe in hunting, but some of the anti-hunters, one of their questions was, why don't you raise turkeys in refuges and then let them go? So that don't do you any good.
What do you mean?
They want you to raise turkeys at home in a barn and then release them out in the wild when they get older, so they'd have to.
Well, you can't do that because they wouldn't have any survival instincts.
No, I know that, but that's the answer. And then one of the questions was the people that are all for them not doing this roundup of shooting coons and stuff. How many of these people are willing to go out and adopt a coon and keep them at their house? Or they want to just release them back in the wild, because that's the problem. The population is out of control in Iowa, and I'm sure it's most states are that way. They're probably one of the most adaptive animals on the planet.
Definitely.
And
they definitely can survive and do what they need to do to survive. I'm just, because we kind of put this interview together really quick, and I wasn't sure what the premise of the podcast was going to be today. So, I would have liked more time to actually ponder that and research, like, what is the solution to the overpopulation in the states where that's applicable, and how to control it without creating so many merciless killings in a very barbaric, old-fashioned way.
I don't think there's much of the barbaric stuff. I think one video of some kids with a cage baiting one is getting a lot more airplay than it really happens in real life.
It's not, because I've been in this arena for about 5 years now, and the things that we see behind the scenes are just
from what group of people? Because I've been in the hunting business for 30 years, and I don't condone any of that. And I don't know anybody that does. I'm not saying there ain't some jacked ass kids out there, because we know there are. They look at what they do to other human beings. There's no doubt about that. There's evil everywhere. But a hunter does not go around bashing animals with a bat. Let's get that out of the way right now. That ain't happening. And
and there's ones where, we've got like arrows through them, and
that happens.
Just they're irresponsible, and that's why I'm glad to be talking with you guys, because you're the responsible hunters, and that's why I agreed to come on, because you are respectful, you do have an appreciation for, you have empathy, for these animals, even though, you know, you're hunting and we have to eat, and you do it in a way like you're skilled at it and you believe people should be skilled at it and do it in a way that causes the least amount
Yeah,
of
I
suffering.
don't want to shoot. I don't know if I've ever even shot a coon. I've ran over someone on the road by accident.
They do try to
happens.
dart.
Yeah, they're on the road a lot. I mean, that has happened, but I have never shot one that I can remember. I have no reason. I don't like to kill nothing unless I'm going to eat it anyways. But I understand the people that shoot coyotes, understand people that shoot coons, understand people that shoot skunks. I have shot some skunks. They carry rabies. I don't want them around my stuff. I mean, there are animals that people shoot, and I understand that. I've never killed a possum, but
I ran over one.
But life is a vicious cycle. In wildlife, there's nothing more evil than just pure wildlife. And living in nature, it's just part of the life cycle. And we don't condone any of the bad stuff. People do the bats and stuff. But I also understand why people hunt them, and I understand why they're doing these varmint contests. The same with I don't know what I'm trying to get at, but the raccoons population is definitely exploding. They're adaptive, and they're hurting other species of animals that need to go and that need to survive. And I don't know what the answer is other than what they're doing. And if someone had a solution, I would be great to listen to it, but I don't know what the solution is on them. I mean, you go to a deer stand in Texas where there's corn, and there's a family of raccoons at every deer stand.
Well, yeah, because they're adaptive and it's a free
That's
meal.
right. And they're good at it. And
Sure.
They're very, very good at it.
Right. But, you know, and another thing, where a lot of these contests are going to take place is on private land.
Yeah, it's not public.
So, I mean, if I have my own piece of private land that I turkey hunt on, and I want to get rid of the raccoons because I like to turkey hunt, that's my property I can do whatever I want on there. And if I want to feed my deer corn and I don't want the raccoons interfering with it, that's my property to also manage the way that I see fit. So there's a little bit of, thumb in the eye of, well, that's your property, but we're going to tell you what should and shouldn't take place on it. Does that make sense?
No, I mean, that's not logical. So, I mean, I totally get it, because there's the real world, application of just how to coexist. And if the population is exploding, there just has to be a better way than putting up a flyer on Facebook and saying, kill them by any means necessary, run over them with the car, do whatever you have to do.
Yeah. And I don't agree with that either. I mean, if you're going to do these things, I think that there should be a humane way of doing it. The baseball bats, the running over with the car. I don't want people to put out poison for these raccoons. I mean, that would be a wide I don't want a raccoon to ingest something and then have to walk off and basically just waste away. It's more humane to me to see a responsible hunter dispatch it in a way that causes the least amount of suffering. I'm trying to see.
But then we're still creating the cycle of you're killing those and there's more coming in to replace those. So what can we all come up with as a way to deter them?
Right.
But not create that vacuum.
I don't think that there is a way. Because even if let's say you just trap them and throw them on your neighbor's property, well, it's still going to create that vacuum. There's still going to be a scenario where there were 10 raccoons and now there's 8, and they're going to do what they have to do to offset. Or let's just say you trap 5 raccoons and throw it on your neighbor's property 10 miles away. That vacuum is still going to exist whether the raccoon is alive or not. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I mean, as far as hunters
Maybe
go,
it's something we could all think about together. I mean, it really is.
Right.
It's a great thing. We're all in this together. We all want the same thing. We all want raccoons that aren't suffering, but we want you to have turkeys.
Sure.
And quail. And so what is the solution where we don't create an even bigger problem in the long view?
I mean, all animals are hunted to a degree, or any game animal. I mean, deer, if we don't shoot them, if we don't hunt and kill deer, they're going to get out of control. Every part of and the answer isn't to put more what's the word?
Restrictions?
No, like wolves and coyotes and stuff. Predators.
I don't know.
Predators, is not working in the mountain states where they've put in the wolves and reintroduced them. Well, that's got things lopsided now because they're out of control and the deer populations are knocked down. I think northern Minnesota, their deer population is plummeting because the wolf population is up. You got to have some regulations on it. Well, the raccoons population is thriving, and someone is a victim of that, and it's the turkeys and the quail and other animals. And
then when we get rid of the raccoons, what's the consequences of that in the long term?
We're never going to get rid of raccoons. There's not enough of them. They're not going to get decimated out. It's not like the buffalo when they were selling. There's not a product there.
There's not a market for a raccoon other than just get rid of it.
To kill some of them off. They're not going to kill all of them. There's no way.
No.
I mean, you could probably.
And I don't know how many people are going to participate in this anyway. Like, it's not going to, like, when the buffalo went extinct, that was en masse. Like, this is just going to be a local contest. I don't even know.
A guy,
where is this taking place
This
at?
is going to be in North Texas.
North
Guy
Texas.
sent me a deal, and I wish I'd have saved it now. And they have a deer lease in Kansas, and they've got, in a 10,000 acre area, they killed 580 coons.
Mm-hmm.
Is what they did. And he said, now our quail population is up and our turkey population's up. They still have coons, though. They're not going nowhere. I mean, they're going to come back up a little bit, I'm sure. And Mother Nature's got a way.
When was that? How long ago was that?
Just a couple years ago.
So
it took a couple years for the quail and turkey numbers
to rebound, but they thinned out a bunch of raccoons and stuff. But it's just crazy how many there are. And the problem is the raccoon population used to be controlled more because people used to trap and the furs were worth something.
Right, and that's why we had this status quo.
Yes,
a nice stable balance.
Yes, and poor people ate coons and possums. Well, poor people don't eat possums and stuff no more. They get a card and they get free food at the grocery store, so they don't have to go do stuff like that. Well, that kind of kept the balance in check. People don't coon hunt no more like they used to. That was a big sport in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. People coon hunted all the time with dogs. They don't do that anymore because the trespassing laws are different now. So that's a varmint that's been out of control with no check.
Here's another thing. Raccoons live on average in the wild in Texas. This is a Texas article, 10 to 15 years old in the wild. That's a long time for something to be running amok. Because what's the average deer probably get to? 3.5, 4?
Probably.
I mean,
they actually, I've all the studies I've seen are about 5 years in the wild for raccoons.
This is Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, texas.gov. So this is from the official state website for Texas Parks and Wildlife.
But they have official state websites for every state, and other states are 5 years for theirs. So
maybe the coons come to Texas to retire.
Maybe we get all the old raccoons that are just burdens to their children.
You take a 10-year-old coon that's been urbanized, he knows his way around.
Oh yeah, he knows what time the trash can's getting filled up, sitting there waiting. I was trying to see what the population is, and it kind of got me down this other rabbit hole.
Terry, you seem like a really nice lady, and your house is very nice. I can see behind you. Have you had a coon in the house that you've let live with you in the house?
I have. When I lived in another state.
How much crap did they tear up?
I mean, they don't, because you lock your cabinets and you take precautions like you would if you had a toddler, because that's what they're like. They're like 3-year-olds, and there are plenty of people that have them for pets, and they do very well with them. And there's just another side of like, I understand this issue with them being overpopulated, and it's hard to come on and advocate for killing raccoons when this is something that, I have a personal stake in saving them where I'm at.
I understand that, and I appreciate that very much. I do. And like I said, I don't like to see anything suffer, but I also understand the consequences if we don't control some of the population, what's going to happen. And it takes someone special like you to do what you do. I'll give you that.
I think it's just, it's tough, because I think we all want an answer that's going to be humane and to solve the issue on both sides. So it's just, that's a tough one.
Yeah, because and it's also tough because this is the hard part. Well, like if you ever talk to like an anti-hunter that is totally against hunting, well, like how do you value wild animal life? Like, is it one for one? Because if that's the case, then like you've got to be against the vegetarian lifestyle, because the vegetarian lifestyle will come in, they'll plow up the fields, they'll spray it corner to corner, they'll kill every bug, field mouse, reptile, whatever's living under the soil. They're going to totally decimate that so that we can, grow your spinach. So, but you're against hunting, where we're going to shoot one deer that's going to feed us for the year, or one turkey that's going to provide a meal for us and our closest friends. So it's always tricky because, people are blinded by love. And same as me. Like, I want to see the turkey thrive, and I don't really, if it costs a couple raccoons, well, that's a price that I'm willing to pay. You love raccoons, so you really don't care if the turkeys thrive or if they don't thrive. But we're all blinded
But
by
I do,
our own.
because I eat turkey, so I'm right there with you.
Right. Yeah, you want a healthy balance is what you want. But
healthy balance.
For me, like if I go and kill 10 raccoons, and if that gives me another 2 gobblers or something like that, or whatever the numbers are, that's a price that I'm willing to pay. And I understand your point of view, that you don't want to see. You're more concerned of the way that this is being portrayed, and maybe the way that they're going to go about exterminating these animals with the baseball bats and stuff.
Yes, I just think it's the methodology and how they're getting on this crazy witch hunt, basically,
Right.
And no holds barred by any means necessary. And I know in South Dakota, they have a competition who can come back with the biggest raccoon penis. And so just killing for no reason.
That's something. They do something with the raccoon penis. Though.
Yeah, they make
ivory. It's got ivory in it.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
It's got a name for it. They make calls out of it too. I think they make actually varmint calls out of it. But there's a name for the raccoon penis, and I can't remember other than raccoon penis.
But it's just another example of them just killing this animal for fun. And it's a totally different story when you're saying like population control, when it is interfering with, crops. And
I think that's part of it, though. I think that's why they're doing that.
In conjunction, maybe the biggest penis is like an added bonus for winning.
Yeah.
The baculum,
but
it's got a purpose, because I remember it's got ivory in it, so it's similar to like elephant tusks.
But
this was a bar in South Dakota that just said, we're just going to run this fun,
bring back a big raccoon
fun thing
penis,
and bring it in, and you win a free beer.
Right.
And so, a bunch of animals are being killed for no reason other than just supposedly fun competition. So
I think they're trying to not get the coons out of their corn crops is what they're doing, and that's probably an incentive to try to kill more coons. The numbers in Iowa
there weren't any corn crops around this bar in South Dakota.
Not there. You can't go anywhere in South Dakota and not have very many corn crops somewhere close. I mean, there's going to be something around the area, but that's like Iowa. The numbers are up 238%, and that's the biggest corn. 268%. That's the biggest corn growing state. That's what I mean. That there's no checks and balance with them because there's not a hunting season. There's nobody going out but they didn't have to do that 50 years ago because people were trapping coons for their hides.
It took care of itself.
A market.
It took care of itself organically.
Yeah, and so it's not there now.
The penis bone is in American South culture. You can wear it as an amulet, and you can wear it for luck and love. So I guess back in the old days, not only did Davy Crockett have a coon hat, but he probably had a coon penis around his neck for good luck and love.
But that there's no season. There's
rabbit's feet are good luck too, but I'm not gonna go kill rabbit.
Rabbit feet are?
Yeah, they don't have them no more. You used to see that a lot.
They were in every convenience store.
But that's
when rehabbers are the ones that are having to deal with injuries from the traps, where their leg is completely eaten off and they've been stuck in this trap for weeks, and their arm is half chewed off. And all the injuries that we see from the traps, it's just the barbaric nature of how it's being done.
Sure. Yeah.
It's why they've trapped for years.
But there's plenty. I mean, I'm sure there has been plenty of instances where a raccoon gets stuck in a trash can at a hunting camp that nobody was going to be at for 3 or 4 months, and then it just sits there and it starves in this trash can because nobody was there to take out the trash. I mean, there's plenty of instances where
crawls up in a motor, somebody starts the engine, and it gets in that.
Right.
I mean, nature's evil.
We have that as rehabbers. I have squirrels that we rescued out of a car recently, and bunnies are going to be attacked by cats, and it's just the nature of how things go. But that's why we're here, is because we're trying to alleviate suffering.
Yeah, nobody wants to see anything suffer.
Exactly.
But we do have to control Mother Nature to some regards. I mean, it can't just run amok. If we didn't have any hunting at all, first of all, if it wasn't for hunters, we wouldn't have very many animals left anyways. Hunters are the best conservationists in the world. And I mean, if it wasn't for Ducks Unlimited, there wouldn't be a duck left. And I'm sure that when you take these, like a DU deal, how many raccoons thrive off of the land that's set aside for Mother Nature and wildlife? But there's some things you have to control, and varmints are one of them that you do have to control. What preys on a raccoon? A mountain lion or a bobcat, maybe?
Coyotes? Do coyotes get them?
They may, but I mean, they don't have really a lot of natural enemies. A raccoon is also a very violent animal. They'll eat rabbits. They'll kill birds, squirrels.
I mean, they do what they have to survive, for sure, like all wildlife does. It's just the natural order of how things work. And so, I mean, I understand about wanting to protect and have more turkeys. It's still, how do we do that without inciting people to this rage where they just go out by any means necessary and create the orphans that we then have to take care of?
I don't think it's a rage. I mean, they're not sadistic.
It is. When I'm reading this Facebook post on this Texas,
I don't see the
event
rage
that they're getting ready to have, and when I've read them on other, it's not an orderly, controlled situation.
Okay. I don't see the rage on it. The guys are having no different than they have coyote contests. They've had varmint contests for the last 3 months all over the United States. Guys shooting coyotes. They call them in, they shoot them. They're not killing cows. They're not killing sheep. They're not killing goats. They're not killing your pets. Tell me an orderly way to do this raccoon hunt different than what they're doing.
I'll go first.
Okay.
How about that?
All right.
I would do it at the end of January. No, I would do it in February. Because January, there's still some deer hunting going on, right? Am I right about when does deer season close?
The second week of January, most places.
I would do it end of January, first part of February. That way you're not orphaning any baby raccoons to...
That's actually when they are having their litters, because over the winter, they're holed up together.
This said April.
So,
I thought we just...
Well, we have orphans now in Texas that started weeks ago. So... it's not the same climate. We're seeing orphans earlier in the season.
Let me look.
So there are Texas rehabbers that got baby raccoons in.
What about the raccoon that kills a rabbit that's got a baby in those orphans?
This still says, everything I'm seeing says between March and April.
Let's just say.
That's what they're saying, but we have the proof. We have the babies.
But what about the raccoon that kills a mama rabbit that's got a litter? What about those orphans?
Can't cherry pick.
Well, I mean,
we don't have control over that,
right? But it's the same situation. It happens. So, anyways, please tell us the way that you would do this in an orderly fashion.
This is from the between March and April was from Dane County Humane Society. So I mean, it's not like it's a pro.
So you would do the contest before they start having litters.
That's what I would do. Okay. I would do that, and then I would must be taken exterminated by shotgun rifle only.
Oh yeah,
something like that. That way, you're going to eliminate this, like you said, this need and this desire. And let's face it, teens are retarded. They're stupid. That would, and you will automatically be eliminated if there are any what's the word? Not nefarious, but
Graphic ways of dying.
any wretched way of exterminating this animal, you'll be disqualified. How about that? We do it in January.
What would
Do it in
middle of January, January 15th to January 20th, somewhere in there. How about that?
What if you did it in June?
That's too hot. It's too hot. Rattlesnakes and what about when can a baby raccoon, when are they viable, like on their own? When do they? Because I'm sure there comes a time where mom kicks them out of the
6 months is normally how long we keep them in rehab. So
they can make it on their own after that.
October, they can.
So there you go. You can do it in October. How about October? October, November. What would that be like? Having them in, let's say, or having them in February. 6 months.
You're asking someone who raises.
When can we kill? When can we kill what you love?
When I want them to be killed. So
not killed.
I don't have an
managed.
answer for you.
How about manage? How about we change the adjective? Not killed, manage, because the population is out of whack right now, and it's out of whack because of a multitude of things. But we can't change those things. We can alter the number of raccoons. Like, we can't stop urbanization unless you're for having less people, which we're already doing that because we've been below replacement level since the 70s. So America's going away by the end of the century. It's just, if you look at the numbers of depopulation, a lot of these places are not going to be here for very much longer. So, short of getting rid of urbanization, they have to be checked somehow. In my estimation, at least.
When would be? I mean, ideally, that would cause the least suffering to the raccoon.
Right. It'd be a
population.
1-for-1. Right. Shooting adult raccoons, adolescent raccoons that, they're not waiting on mom to come back home with the milk or whatever. I'm assuming they drink milk for the first little bit, right?
Yeah, till about 8 weeks, and then we put them on kibble.
What do they do in the wild? Does mom bring back, or do they forage with mother?
Yes, mother teaches them how to hunt and fish and do all the survivor and where to find dens and
find dens,
where to find water.
What do they find? Oh, find dens for like shelter?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this. We're going to switch topics just a little bit. Are raccoons, you've been around plenty of them. They had to have come from bears, right? Like, they're a descendant of the bear. Like, when you look at them, like, they're a big bear with a longer tail and, pointer ears. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, that's what their name in Germany is, wash bear.
Wash bear?
They wash everything. Wash bear. That's their name in German. I don't know how to say it in German, but
I mean, even like when you watch them walk up, like, they kind of have that bear crawl. You know what I'm talking about? Like, they've got that very lumbering look to them. Like, I think that they share similar genes. They're cute as hell to look at. Like, listen, I'm not, I'm with you there. But
they're not population control because there's no reason to kill them. Just like, right. I'll give you an example. Davy Crockett in 7 months killed 107 bears. They ate them.
Okay.
The bears weren't under every corner. Bear population is increasing now, but so it's the same with the coons. We took care of a lot of that stuff back then, so it kept a balance. And we've lost the balance is out of whack now on coons because we do not harvest them.
NatureMentoring.com, between months of January to March. So there's 90 days in there, which is probably why you're seeing some babies right now. So they're on their own in what, 6 months, you said?
6 months. So, that's when we normally release them. Yep.
So a little baby in January, he's on his own in June. A baby born in March is on his own in September.
So the ideal time to be doing these things,
late October.
Yep, would be in the fall.
Now, talk to me about this rehabilitation thing. Have there been do they all kind of, once they establish like you are this safe and providing critter, do they pretty much always take to y'all, or do you ever have raccoons that are like, no, I don't trust her, send me out to the wild?
I mean, they're just like dogs. they have different personalities, and some of them are just sweet as pie. And usually the ones that start out sweet usually turn out to be the ones that are the most hateful.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When do
And
they get to
I
that
mean,
age? Like, if they're sweet and cuddly, and then I mean, when do they get? Is it when they reach sexual maturity that they kind of go through
yeah,
puberty?
when
And
the hormones kick in, just like human teenagers, how we lose our minds when
yeah,
the hormones kick in,
been
they
there.
lose their minds. And you can have the most docile raccoon ever, and once they get out in the wild and you see that light switch in their eyes, and they know that this is where I'm supposed to be in the trees, and just seeing that shift in them, it's like there's no feeling like it to raise them from a baby and see them go do what raccoons are supposed to do. So
That doesn't hurt you though. Like here
it's
I was, I spent all this time, effort, and energy raising this little bastard, and he just turned his eye, he turned around on me. Look at him.
yeah, it's heartbreaking, but I mean, it's what we got in this for, is to keep them from suffering and give them a good life at the end.
See, but I don't know about that. See, I see it the other way. I see it as I'm releasing this poor thing into the wild to fend for himself when he could just stay with me and I'll take care of him forever. He won't have to worry about anything. Like now he's got to dodge.
It's tempting.
He's got to dodge cars for the rest of his life. And like, what if he gets a mean dog? What if he falls out of the tree?
We purposely pick areas that are away from farms, away from people, away from traffic. And we do a soft release where we bring food for them for a certain amount of time until they can forage. And there's a time we'll put dry kibble out for a while. And once they stop coming back, then we know that they've been able to assimilate in the wild and find their own way of, hunting things in the creek, or, finding food, nuts and grubs and things on their own, because we're teaching them that the whole way.
How do you teach
while we're
them that?
rehabbing them? We're teaching them how to be independent.
How do you teach them that?
Just letting them, we'll get like a little kiddie pool and let them hunt for little crawdads in there and hide things in the dirt in their enclosures that they dig up, and let them find things, like hide things inside things and let them find it. And just teaching them how to coon.
What is the percentage of these animals that are rehabbed that make it in the wild, that survive a year, you think?
We were actually reading this because there was a study they did where they put tracking collars on them, and I think it was 85%. That's what that study said.
That's amazing.
As long as
that shocks me. I figured it was going to be in the 20s.
As long as you set them up for success and have the soft release where you're supporting them, providing supportive care for a little while until they figure it out on their own. And, we'll actually walk out with them in the woods. Once we release them, we'll walk out with them and make sure that they're comfortable and they know where the feeding station is. And so just making sure they're set up for success. Because like you said, we're not going to invest all that time and money out of our pockets to rehab them and then send them out just to be killed in the first week.
Right.
I saw a video of a rabbit rehabber. Had a rabbit and they rehabbed it and had it in the yard. Put it in the yard. Oh, look, there goes the bunny. And this hawk come down and grabbed it and it was gone. I thought, boy, that would suck.
But that's what I mean. If I started taking care of these animals, I'd have a house full of whatever, bunnies and raccoons.
You'd think so, but I mean, this all started with fostering dogs, and I thought the same thing about the dogs, but you learn that it feels better to see the new family with that foster dog, like to see them all happy together. And that feeling overrides wanting to keep them to myself. And so when I release bunnies, I put them next to a huge pile of things that they can crawl under and hide from the predator. So,
well, good for you. You do a good.
Like, you have to be responsible on that side too.
Well, we appreciate having people like you in the earth. We need that. It's really a great thing.
What you're doing, I think, is, you're a voice for, you see a problem and you're afraid it's going to get a little crazy out there. And, there's been some weird inhumane ways of doing it. Now, here's the other thing. As far as the clubs, and we'll just call it what it is. I'm sure a long time ago that was the primary way of doing it because ammunition was pretty expensive. And that might be the argument for why some of these people choose to club these things, is why waste a bullet. Mm-hmm. So,
But I mean, when
It's hard to
you
watch.
hit the raccoon in this video and it's
Sure.
screaming and you keep
Yep.
beating it and it's got its hands that it's putting over its head and you keep beating it
I'm
with the
with you.
bat,
They need to
like,
have their head
it's so irresponsible.
caved in. I'm with you
I'm with
100%.
Yeah.
That
But
also is against the law. That's cruelty to animals. So
why? It's a wild animal.
you still can't do shit like that.
Really?
No.
No, they do. They get away with it. They have the videos of it, and the law still turns a blind eye because it's
But-
wildlife. Like, you'd never get away with doing the things that they're allowed to do to wildlife. If any of this happened to domestic animals, there's such an outrage. I just don't understand why it's okay to do this to a raccoon, but it's not okay to do this to a dog.
I don't either, and it shouldn't be. And if I saw it, I'd put it into. That pisses me off. There's no sense. There's no sense to make anything suffer. No sense at all.
Well, and and then it makes
Hunters look horrible.
it makes all of us look bad.
Yes, it
that
does.
choose to do this. And I'm not in it to see a raccoon suffer. I am in it to make sure that my ground birds have a healthy environment that they can thrive in.
The people that are putting this contest on in Texas do not condone any of the stuff like that. That's not what they're after. Not one bit at all. So I can tell you
Well,
that.
I was trying to find Lane's post because he actually was supporting it, because people were saying, well, do you mean if I hit it with a vehicle that counts? And he's like, yeah, by any means necessary. So he actually is encouraging them to have really poor behaviors around this. So
Well, I don't know the context of all that, but I do know this. If you're going to go riding around in your truck to be in that contest, you're going to burn a lot of gas and not run over many things.
And that's dangerous to the driver.
Yes.
Because if I see a raccoon 2 lanes over and I'm swerving to go get it, well, now I'm putting a lot of people in jeopardy. So
yeah,
that's irresponsible.
Yeah, that and
to me,
that's not going to be happening anyways. I mean, you try to go in your neighborhood and you drive around, try to run over a coon tonight, and it's going to be almost impossible. I bet you.
Yeah.
they won't have it. They won't stand for it.
Who?
They'll warn
the
each
raccoons.
Well,
like,
I
listen,
just-
there's a crazy lady behind a wheel.
They'll warn
Right?
each other.
That's
Yeah,
not
they're
going
just.
to happen.
And
Yeah. It's just crazy when you see our view of the raccoons. Like, so many people. I had a guy who's a lawyer, and he has a pet raccoon, and he said the pet raccoon literally chewed a cancerous growth off of his arm.
Why?
Like, he was getting ready to go to the dermatologist, and they're so in tune. You just can't believe how in tune they are. And they run so much deeper than people have any idea. There's just a whole other side of raccoons that we see.
Did he go to the doctor?
As rehabbers.
Did he go to the doctor?
He had a dermatologist appointment set up, and the raccoon had bit it off of his arm, and she said, you're fine. Like, it's gone. So you don't even need me.
Died of rabies, but the cancer didn't hit him.
Rabies is not that prevalent. So come on.
No, I know. But
yeah, if you look on the CDC website, in 20 years, there's been 3 people that died from raccoon rabies, and they have a symbol by them because they couldn't prove that that's what it was, because they got liver or organ transplants, and they're saying 3 years prior was when the rabies came into that organ that was transplanted into them.
right.
It's like a totally bogus. So if you go on the CDC website and look at raccoon rabies and humans that have died,
Listen, I don't trust
nil.
I don't trust anything coming out of the CDC, because the COVID deaths are not near, like, that's a whole nother podcast. But like anything coming out of the CDC, like, I'm already
Also want to go out there
skeptical.
on record and say that we do not recommend going to get a raccoon to chew your cancer off.
I would
Right.
probably be.
There's that disclaimer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, disclaimer on that.
I'm not gonna debate. They are cute and cuddly animals, and the facts that they have, hands that they can use, and
They're a neat animal.
They are. They're very neat, and I think that they should be treated with respect, just the same way that I treat all the animals that I hunt every year with respect. So,
Absolutely.
I applaud you, because listen, there's a lot of people out there that would just sit on the sideline and paint everybody with a broad brush, and you had the courage to step up and have a respectful conversation with 2 Neanderthals. So my hat is off to you. It's been an hour now, so I think that we've pretty well covered everything, but I'm seriously, for you to step out and agree to this, my hat is off to you, and I respect you for that. We're just going to have to agree to disagree, because I think that there is a way to get the population in check.
And I appreciate you being on here. We wish you the best. God bless you, and thank you for what you're doing.
You.
And we do appreciate you being on here. Thank you so
Don't
much.
be assholes out there in these raccoon things, right? That's what you want to say.
They say what?
Just don't be an asshole in these raccoon things.
Just don't cause suffering.
There you
No,
go.
Really.
We're with you 100% on
I
that.
agree with you there.
Thank you, ma'am, and you have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you, guys. Thank you, Jeff, Andy.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Very nice lady.
Yeah, she is very nice. 268%
That's crazy.
in Iowa.
It's just there's just no market for them no more.
And that makes a lot of sense because a long time ago when there were when there was trapping and there was a market for the fur,
It took care of
it
itself.
took care of itself. But now all of a sudden there is so much. How much food do we throw away as Americans?
Oh, you
like,
got any trash can in the world,
I mean,
a coon can live off of it.
back a long time ago there was no scraps.
Yep.
And if there were scraps, it went to the dogs.
You're exactly right.
So, like, there was not an abundance of this food that was just readily available for all of these possums, skunks, raccoons. I'll tell you another thing. I didn't realize skunks had a breeding season until
Yeah, they're
everywhere.
Yeah.
They're all over.
Yeah.
They're getting ran over by the dozens.
Nobody ever wants to save the skunk, though.
No, that's a tough one to get behind. But I'm also aware that it would make me uneasy to club a raccoon.
No, I couldn't do that. I'm not that kind of person. I don't even like.
But I also understand somebody's attitude of, why waste a bullet? But just doing it for kicks, I'm against.
I'm not clubbing a raccoon.
And I'm against clubbing, there's the video of the cranes getting
I
the
don't like
baseball
that.
bat. I don't
I'm
like
not-
that either. There's
and
a quick way of doing this.
Yeah,
And
and it's wring
ammo
its
is
neck.
not that expensive.
Or wring its neck, and I ain't jabbing a damn piece of metal in its head either. All right. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. Have a great weekend, okay? Thank you. Bye.
You ended that too quick. Ladies and gentlemen, go check out all of our sponsors and participate in these participate in these contests responsibly. Check out Shen Gear, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Podcast, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Bangtail Whiskey, Stanfield Outfitters, Dirty Duck Coffee, Ducks Unlimited, Dirty Duck Coffee, Double T British Kennels, Gundog Outdoors, Pacific Calls, Dive Bomb Industries, Boss Shot Shells, and Mossberg.